All right, let's do this. A year ago, I made one of the biggest decisions of my life and decided to start a podcast. And it's something that I think that part of me always knew that I had to do. And I think that there are probably a lot of signs when I look at it in the rearview mirror that pointed towards me doing this thing eventually. Things like finding an interview that I did with my dad on an old computer when I was like 5 years old, of him and I talking about the movie Radio together, or falling asleep in middle school to podcasts before people even really knew what podcasts were. And getting podcast equipment for Christmas in college instead of the usual Gymshark clothes and beer bongs that all my buddies were asking for. And I think that podcast equipment is probably a good jumping off point because I didn't actually get it that year. Instead, what I got was a piece of paper from my mom saying, "I will buy you podcast equipment as soon as you tell me what you need." And I carried that piece of paper around with me for 2 years. And I think the reason that I carried that around with me is because I was using it as this thinly veiled excuse for not having to acknowledge the fact that this was my dream. And this was the thing that I had to bring into the world, because if I didn't have the equipment, I couldn't start a podcast. And so eventually I met my friend Clay, and he and I started talking about podcasting, and he had a similar vision, and we ripped the Band-Aid off. We started a podcast called The Owner's Journal in 2024, and we recorded 42 episodes that I'm still very, very proud of, and very thankful to him for helping me rip the Band-Aid off and actually do the dang thing. But at one point, it came time for me to go out on my own. At that point, I knew what my tendency was, and the thing that I was the most scared of was I did not want to spend another 2 years walking around waiting for this thing to be perfect. And so we jumped. I talked to my team and said, "Hey, we just have to do this thing, and let's do it now." And so I thought of the 5 most inspiring people that I knew in my life, and we just went and recorded episodes. We did it without a name, we did it without a logo, and we really did it without being able to show them anything to say, "Here's why you should spend your time on this project with us." Once it finally came time to release those episodes, we had 5 episodes in the bank. They were the best lighting that we had ever done. They were some of the best conversation that I'd ever had, and I was so excited to put them out. But we still didn't have a name, and we still didn't have a logo, and we were 5 days out from the first episode dropping. I just speed ran everything. I decided to try to brainstorm as many names as possible and show them to as many people that I could think of to help me out. Eventually we got a name. And then the night before that first episode was supposed to come out, I was like, oh shit, we need cover art to go on Apple and Spotify. So I whipped something out using an old headshot that I had for my business, and Press for Presence was born. And now, being a year into the podcast, I am so proud of what we put together. The people who have taken their time to come on the show and tell their stories, the conversations that it's inspired in my personal life, and the people that we have been able to meet and just build a community of along the way has been so special. But I really do think at the end of the day that the show has gotten bigger than that first idea. That idea of Press for Presence came from really an issue that I had in my life. And that thing was that I had been a couple years into business, and I had achieved some things that I had once dreamed of. And those things hadn't made me happy. And I felt like I just kept missing them. I felt like I would achieve a thing, or I'd get a win, and I'd already be looking a mile on to the next thing. And I felt like presence was the one thing that I was missing. And Chris Williamson has this idea that if you never take the time to celebrate your victories, then you're going to end up with this long chain of miserable successes over the course of your life. You'll have not spent any time celebrating it. That's what I was fearful of. So Press for Presence was born out of that idea, and I wanted people who had had amazing successes and built beautiful lives to come tell those stories, and also give people like myself advice on how to stay present along the journey. But since the show has gotten bigger than that, I think that it's time to acknowledge that. I think that this show has become a thing where instead of just figuring out how to be present, we've had so many people come on and inspire people to just find what their thing is in the first place. To do the inner work, to say what am I actually here to give to the world? What am I called to? What am I supposed to spend my life doing? And how can I give to the world through that? And it's also inspired me to not only do that for myself, but to encourage people to build a life around whatever that thing is. And that's what I want the show to be about. And so with that situation, with the old name not really fitting anymore and trying to encompass a good idea, I decided that I wanted to give it a new face and a new name. But I didn't want to speed run it this time. I didn't want to treat it like some homework assignment that I had that I was just gonna like turn in at the very last moment, right before the assignment was due. And so I started. I started by falling in and out of love of a bunch of different names for the show, messing with logo types and all different stuff like that. And there was one concept that as I was really wrestling with what this thing is going to be called that kept on coming back. And it's this idea of chasing butterflies and building gardens. Don't spend your life chasing butterflies, because you're going to come back tired with an empty net and you're never going to catch one. But instead, if you spend your life building a beautiful garden, you're gonna have more butterflies than you know what to do with. And that is just such a beautiful quote for me. And it kept on coming back, and I've fallen in love with it so many times. My first viral moment ever was from talking about this idea on TikTok. I've got tattoos about this idea, and it's also the one thing that I use as a lens to look at my life and determine whether or not I'm on track, to see if I'm giving the right things to the world, to see if I'm on the right path for me. And so all signs have been pointing to calling this thing the garden. And what I want the garden to represent is, I want it to represent all of the gardens that my guests have built and the beautiful stories that they come in and tell on the podcast. I want it to represent my own garden, which is this podcast, and the thing that I'm trying to give to the world. And I also hope that it represents the garden that you, as a listener, can one day find for yourself and build a life around, because that's what this whole project is about, is helping people find their thing and build a life around it at the expense of literally everything else. And so if we can build a community doing that, if we can build this thing to encourage more people to talk about those stories and to live them, then I think that that's the best thing that I can do with my time here. And I think that that's the best thing that I can bring to the world. So with that being said, welcome to the garden. I'm so happy you're here, and thanks for helping me build this thing.